latest and greatest from Lectron going on my KTM 300 XE. Hey, what's up guys, Rado here, and this is greatest and latest from Lectron. This is Billetron Pro Big Air with a Excalibur rod. Actually they call it accelerator, but I think Excalibur sounds better. So anyway, this is the latest and the greatest, and they say that this would work really good on my KTM 300. I used Lectron on my KTMs before a long time ago. I had the original Lectron, then I got the H series, which was like one step forward from the original, and I always had a good experience with Lectron. They ran good, they adjusted to the elevation, to a temperature. I didn't really have to play with it. They were really good to me. Now, one thing I have to say is that with the Lectron back in the days, a few years ago, with those old Lectrons, it was a little bit more mellow from the bottom. It didn't have that hard hit. So that's what people usually complain about. When they compare that to the stock, well-jetted Keen, they would say the Lectron runs good, but doesn't have that bottom hit, that bottom power that you would have on your stock well-jetted Keen, for example, right? So this right here, the Pro Billetron with accelerator rod, this should fix it, and it should feel even better than your stock well-jetted Keen. That's what they are promising to us, and I would love to have it, to be honest with you. I rode a Billetron on Jay Clark's bike. He has a TX300, which is pretty much the same bike as this one, and it had really nice and crisp bottom. It actually ran better than my KTM 300 with the Keen carburetor. So I'm expecting quite a lot from this Pro Series Big Air with the Excalibur rod. Let's throw it on a bike and see how it rides. Things are way easier if you have good access to what you are working on. So when I work on a carburetor, I take my seat off, I take my tank off, and then I take my silencer off. So I'll be able to move my subframe. I'm gonna take out the bottom screws from the subframe, and then I'm gonna just loosen a little bit the top screws on the subframe, and that would allow me to tilt the subframe upwards, and I don't need to be fighting the rubber boot on the airbox. If your bike is brand new and the rubber boot is super flexible, then maybe you don't have to do that. But on my KTM, it's pretty hard, it's pretty firm and rigid, so I don't want to be fighting that thing all the time. So take a couple screws out, don't be lazy, make your life easier. If you work on a carburetor, I would definitely recommend to get the access, and as I said, make your work much easier. Lectron uses the same size bolt on the top for Allen key, which is convenient. So this came already preset for my bike. We still might need to do a little tweaking, but for now we're not gonna touch anything until the bike is warmed up. Then only then we'll do some adjustment here. You need to put your cable through and screw this thing on. That seems to be working fine. And you want to make sure that your slide is sitting on the bottom. So you want to hear that metal click when it sits on the bottom. All good. You can put zip ties on these hoses, so then it's easier to maneuver over there. They can go all together. It just makes it a little cleaner. Hose is not going all around the place. Don't go too tight. Flush cut. There you go. And we do one on the bottom. Lectron is installed, everything is back on the bike, seat, tank, subframe, and we are ready to start this thing. But before that, of course, we cannot miss the most iconic shot that only happens once in a lifetime of every carburetor. Let's see how this thing runs straight out of the box. Shall we do choke? Let's do choke. All right. All right, no choke. We're gonna warm it up. All right, so we have to warm it up, go for a ride, and then we're gonna play with it a little bit. It started fine. I didn't need a choke. That's why it was a little bit harder, because I had the choke up. When I put choke back in, it started fine. It keeps idle. Let's warm it up, take it for a ride, see how it goes. All right, guys, so it's been a week since I have this carburetor on KTM 300. I think now it's dialed in. I have a couple hours on the bike. I want to start it. I want you to hear how it starts completely cold. It hasn't been running for about 4 days. I didn't ride it for 4 days. The gas, let me turn it on. I'll turn the gas on. It usually starts with just one push of the button, no gas and no choke. So it's a tiny bit on the rich side, but I like it that way. So let's start it, we warm it up a little bit, and then we'll go for a ride. I will let you hear how the bike sounds. So this is completely cold, right? My hand is on the exhaust. We are in the third gear. Second. Alright, another test we can do, we can shift through all the gears all the way to 6 on very low RPM and see how this bike feels down low when you go through the gears like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I go really slow and I'm in a 6th gear. A little bit uphill. Alright, let's do something a little bit more motocrossy and see how this thing feels when you rev it up. Next thing I want to show you is just to be in a first gear and just let it idle and see if this thing wants to die. Alright, first gear. Pretty much on idle. I just give it a little throttle, no clutch at all. Touch the throttle. Let's do the same in a second gear. Second. Back to first. Let me kill it because this thing would idle until it runs out of gas. So you guys saw it. You saw how this bike runs. You see how this bike starts. You see kind of low speed, a little bit higher speed, a little bit motocrossy on the trail. And I also did a test when I did like a low RPM shifting all the way to the 6th gear. And I didn't feel a lot of bugging. So overall, let me first give you my initial impression overall. This Lectron Big Air with an Excalibur rod feels pretty dang good. I think I can compare it to Keen. Previously on the older Lectrons, they felt good, but they were a little bit more mellow, I would say. So if you have a good jetted Keen, and then the Lectron will be, considerably, will have less punch, especially on the bottom. So now with this thing, with this carburetor, I think it's very comparable. I don't think it's like a huge increase in the power, but it's not less than Keen, and that's a plus, because if the Lectron gives you all the benefits of running clean all the time, and it runs really good, sometimes even better than a well-jetted stock carburetor, especially if you're running Mikuni. If you're still on a Mikuni and you jump on Lectron, for sure you're gonna see a big increase in everything. It will make you more happy. So overall, I'm impressed. It runs pretty good, but I'm still gonna play with it a little bit. I still feel like maybe quarter turn here or there will make it a little bit better. Now, the good thing about this carburetor that is different than the other carburetors is that you can actually adjust the bottom and the top, that is independent. Before, you just had one top screw that you adjust your power jet, and then you can adjust the rod. So this carburetor is a little bit different than Keen. You need to start thinking a little bit differently when you are setting this carburetor. Just follow the sheet they send you. I did that, and one thing I have to say is that yes, this carburetor came set up for a different bike. There was a little misunderstanding between me and Lectron. They said the carburetor that was a little bit richer than what I needed. So I just followed the sheet they had, and I went quarter turn out on the rod. You know how you have a slider, then you have a rod under the slider, and you actually have to rotate, unscrew it out, quarter turn at a time. That makes the bike leaner. So I did that 4 times, and I think I finally found a setting that runs really good. It starts no problem. It runs good. It holds the idle. It would idle forever. It doesn't die. When I go in the first gear, I just idle, I give it little blips, and that thing even goes uphill. So it's really good on the bottom. Now, that rod, when you adjust it to the position where you like it, now your entire range will be pretty good. So the bottom, mid, and the top range. So the rod is doing pretty much everything. Now, if you still feel like you want to twig a little bit, you want to fine tune a little bit on the bottom, you want to have a little more torque, now the torque jet comes in the torque screw that is on the bottom of the carburetor. That you can turn it again, maybe quarter turn at a time. The base setting for this screw is 1 turn out. So you see, you're not really making like 5 turns changes on this turn. You just make a very small adjustment, like a quarter turn at a time. And on the top of the carburetor, you have your power jet, which is more like a main jet on the Keen carburetor. It does the half throttle and up. And you can also adjust it linear or richer. And again, you just do a small increments like quarter turns at a time. I think the base setup for that one is 3/4 out, not even full turn. So for these two screws, one on the bottom, one on the top, you do very small increments, quarter turn the max when you are tweaking your bottom and your top. Now let me tell you one thing about the torque jet, the one on the bottom. When you're playing with that jet, it's comparable to playing with the needle position on a keen carburetor. It's not comparable to changing a pilot jet. So if the bike is lean or rich, you cannot change it with that little torque jet. You have to go and change the pilot jet. So you have to go and change your rod. You have to unscrew it out to make it leaner or screw it back in to make it richer. Now if it's already in the range that you really like it, you just want to fine tune it, then you can go to the torque screw and you can play with it maybe quarter turn in or out. And also you can go to the top screw that is a power jet screw. You can play with it quarter turns in or out. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Follow the sheet they gave you and I think you're gonna like it. So this is my initial impression. It runs good and I'm gonna keep it like that on this bike for next 30, 40, 50 hours. And then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna give you my long-term review. The real question is this bike going to run the same in the summer, in a higher altitude, in a low altitude? And now we have like 48, 49 degrees. I even started in like 35 degrees and it kind of still felt the same, but I want to see how it feels when it's a dry day, it's 90 degrees outside and I go up maybe like 6,000. If this still feels and runs the same, then we're gonna have another good positive long-term review that will be posted on this channel, hopefully in the next couple of months. All right, my friends, so hopefully you find this initial review helpful. If you are thinking about getting the Lectron carburetor, follow the steps on the sheet, how to adjust it, and also make sure you give them all the information about your bike. They already set it up for you. This is the only Lectron I got that I had to play with. Other Lectrons before were already set up for me and were running pretty good out of the box. All right, my friends, well, that's about it for today. Drop the comments below and don't forget, whatever you do, stay motivated. See you guys later.